Hello, Yaron. This is just the second part of this lesson today. So we are still looking at the article, of course, about the wildlife and the issues there that have been highlighted in this article. What we're going to look at now, so we are focusing on structure again. So I want you now to look carefully at the choices Packer makes at the end of the article as well. So what we have here. So here we have one farmer quoted in the manifesto argues that we must all rethink the way we live, shop, cook, and eat so that we wean ourselves off damaging farming that has fed us cheaply but an appalling price to nature. The manifesto was only a first draft. Some ideas will be criticised. Many of you will have other great ideas. Let's share them, debate them, and take decisive steps to save the wildlife that enriches every single one of us. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you just to write down around the end in there what you notice about the end and what's been used, what techniques, how it's been structured, and what kind of effect do you think this has. Because remember, in a speech or an article, yes, your beginning, your opening line is important because you need to engage, shock the reader in some way. But also, how you end your speech or article is just as important because this creates the lasting impression on the reader or the audience. So, what is the lasting impression here? What effect do we think this creates on the reader at this point? So, I would like you just to write any ideas you have down. Okay, so perhaps you may have commented on there the use of the quote, which is really quite important. So we have a kind of another voice in here as well. Perhaps just kind of what we wouldn't expect a farmer to say as well. Wean ourselves off damaging farming that has fed us cheaply, but an appalling price to nature. So really, really interesting that. But also we have the inclusion and of the reader again. Many of you got the direct address, will have other great ideas. So including them, making the reader feel like their ideas, their thoughts count as well, and that they can play an active role in the solution for this problem. As well. So that's really important. So we've got that again, that idea of unity at the end there. So we start with perhaps an accusational tone, anger as well, and kind of a shocking tone at the beginning. And we end with this hope and this sense of unity and the fact that we can actually do something about it, making it quite personal and making it feel very inclusive as well. Let's share them. So this idea of sharing, again, coming together, debate them and take decisive steps to save the wildlife. Save. That word there, that verb there, is really, really quite powerful. The idea that it is in our power to save something and the wildlife around us that enriches every single one of us. We end with that word us there, the collective there. And of course, again, it's important that it creates the sense of unity at the end, that we can work together to really help solve this issue. So it's quite hopeful at the end as well, and that's how it finishes. Okay, so if we look at the article as a whole and we look at the structure, this is kind of how it is structured. This is what we get in this article. So we've started and we began with the anecdote using I, personal story, which captures the main problem straight away. Then we have the problem, and that's where we have that shocking tone, accusational tone, and maybe in some instances quite bitter or angry tone as well. And we've got statistics to help with that. Remember, you need statistics for your piece, which you've already hopefully researched, factual information, exaggerated language and emotive language, and pronouns. So now we have not only I, we move away from that personal anecdotal story at the beginning to we. Okay, this is a problem we all face together, and making the audience feel included in that. Then we need to have the solution. This is the tone changes. Okay, yes, this is the issue, but we can do something about it. We've got simple sentences which are impactful, builds the pace, shifts less extreme, a bit calmer, more positive language because we want to create a sense of hope and a sense of optimism as well. Targeting people in power, and shorter paragraphs as well to kind of indicate this change in tone. We have the solution continuing through repetitive imperative verbs about what we should do. We ban this, we ban that, etc. And of course, we've got that conclusion of placing emphasis on the reader and how we can work together, and how we're also included in this kind of the resolution here and the solution at the end. So there's a kind of overview of that structure, and a structure you may want to use for your own piece of writing as well if you decide to write an article. So what you need to think about now then is we've looked at a number of writers now and thought about how they build their argument, how they persuade, how they craft their piece. So you are going to take some inspiration from these three pieces we've looked at, and you're going to plan your own article or speech on the topic that you have chosen. So the aim is to confront your reader audience. You shock them. Yes, you could be angry. Yes, you could use shocking statistics. Yes, you could be accusation, but you definitely need to use direct address. Really important. You need to challenge their thinking using a wider range of techniques that we've looked at so far. So you've looked at these three bits of writing, you've boxed them up, we've looked at how they're structured. It's now their time to kind of think about how you can use this structure to plan your own piece of writing as well. So I want you to use the writers to inspire you and help you develop your skills. So help you structure your paragraphs, plan opening and ending carefully, and think about what's going to be in the middle. So essentially, I want you to use this time to plan out how and what each of your paragraphs are going to look like, what you're going to include, if there's any more statistics you need to find or any more factual bits of information you need to find. Use this time to do that now as well. Okay, guys, well, thank you very much for listening, and good luck with the planning of that piece of writing as well.